want to welcome you to the Strength in the Storm podcast. I'm so excited to talk about this book. It's just a limited run podcast. We're going to give you the scoop on this amazing resource. First, I want to introduce you, Andrea Lende. She's the force behind this book. And it's so amazing because usually when you're talking about a book, highlighting a book, you're talking about one author and learning about one person. But for this one, we have 30 amazing ladies and their stories. So tell me a little bit about how this came about.
Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me here and doing this short run podcast for us. Many, I think really all of our ladies who have written for this anthology are speakers. They have remarkable stories of overcoming some adversity or just a new perspective in life that they're sharing inside of their stories. And who doesn't love a great story? I mean, we all love that rags to riches or the hero's journey, if you will. And these are 30 of those just women who have hung on the coattails of their faith, Jesus Christ, and sharing what he has done in their lives. So they're powerful, powerful stories coming from humble women. And we wanted to group all of these together in one book that would encourage, uplift, and inspire the one who is going through a storm or who has gone through a storm. Every time I read their stories, my heart is touched, the tears come, the joy. It's just such a beautiful collection of stories. And so we don't have to be going through a storm to enjoy them. But certainly reading each one absolutely increases our faith even more in the one who created us.
And I love how you focus on not the storm, but the strength in the storm. You're a featured author in this as well. So let's talk a little bit about your inspiration for finding that strength and why you wanted to link arms with other women to see how their strength in their storms has played out in their lives.
Many of these stories are women who have kind of come to the end of themselves and have no idea what to do next. And that is the perfect time that God comes in to rescue us. For all of us, there is that space, that peace where the Lord has come in and rescued us. And certainly that's part of my story way back decades ago when I was flying airplanes and doing all my ratings and was a commercial pilot and teaching others to fly. And I really thought that was going to be what I was going to do for the rest of my life. But God said no. And so just stopped me in my tracks. And I got very, very ill, was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, which took me out of the skies. But God has absolutely given dream after dream, dreams I didn't even know I had. And that's goes back to scripture when God, it says God gives you the desires of your heart. So when he picks us up at our lowest and puts himself in the forefront of our lives, then new dreams appear. And I think with pretty well every story, we've all made a mistake or we've been at our lowest and God has come in and been that rescuer. And so it's that compilation of his rescue over and over and over again. It's a beautiful thing to read story after story where we see him being so faithful and changing our lives because of it.
And so many people have stories like that. And the idea maybe of sharing that story, whether it's speaking or with a book, but getting that story out, especially let's talk about book form, since that's what this is. I think people get intimidated about, I wouldn't even know where to start on how to write a book. But you have come to those people's rescue. You came to my rescue and you helped me. So let's talk just a little bit about, how do you just start with a story and then end up with a book?
That is a great question. First, we really have to be inspired by the Lord and have that just gnaw at us, that gentle voice that becomes a louder voice until we sit down and do something with what we're being beckoned to do by God. And as we do that, the words start flowing out on pages. I know when I first started working with you, it just happens where we just can't not do it any longer. And that's when we're able to write and be really prolific writers. But God has so much in store when we start. And so I talk about brain dumping when we first start writing a book and getting it all out. And then we massage it and put it in a way that's consumable by others, that they can receive the message that we truly want to give. And Amazon has made it so simple, not easy, but simple for us to be able to craft our stories and put them on their platform in the form of a book. And I love that you have 3 books now and another one, I think, on the way. And God just keeps giving us more and more as we write. So we sort of cracked the code with Amazon, and we're very blessed to be able to do that and help a lot of other writers. And in this case, we have 29, 28, if you count you and I, 28 other writers that some have not published a book yet. And they really wanted, as a speaker, to have a book at the back of the table when they speak. This really fills a void for them, certainly. And it's just a blessing to help others get their books on Amazon for sale.
And I think it's also a nice way, like you said, we had some speakers that did not have any books that they had written. It's a nice way to get your feet wet and to learn the process of, like you said, it's not just writing the words out. You have to make sure you're putting it in a format that's consumable. It's easy to understand for the reader. It's reaching them at their pain point as well. And then there's things like, how do you market your book? How do I get a book cover? Should I have this professionally edited? And you've stepped in and you have found solutions for all of those issues. So tell us a little bit about that as well.
Well, I had the great opportunity to intern for a best-selling author and sort of learned from her and picked up her editor. And so we have that piece and we also have a couple of formatters. And that's the beautiful thing is we get to collaborate with other authors who happen to have these other gifts. These other ladies are a piece of the puzzle as you are working with our authors and getting their stories streamlined so that they are very well read. And so we have a little team that we now call Beatitudes Publishing, and we're able to help other authors publish their work.
Talk a little bit about how authors and speakers, how there's some overlap there, and how, as we're helping others, we're growing ourselves.
Oh, yes. It's what I call the cheap therapy. We as we write and as a speaker, speakers have to write their message out and they rewrite it so that it really dials in to their audience, their one person, if you will, and makes an impact on those hearts. And so we're all writers, whether we're speakers or writers and or both. But as we write our stories, it's the same thing as teaching. When we learn something and then have to teach it, we learn it even better. And so as we write our stories, God gives us more ideas. He inspires us with more wisdom, understanding, more knowledge about why we went through what we went through and how that can help other people. And he takes the focus off of ourselves and onto another. So it's huge, hugely growth spirited. We grow as we write and learn more about how God worked fully. We could go through an experience and kind of forget. I forget yesterday, what happened yesterday. But when I have to really sit down and recall, oh, wow, I just see God's goodness all over, even the trials. So it's a blessing to us, the growth as we go through and put our words on paper and in those experiences. It's biblical, even back in Moses' time. God said, tell your children, don't let them forget these stories, these wild stories of the Red Sea parting. And King David writes about it all the time in Psalms as well. So as we recall what's happened to us, it becomes even more powerful in our lives and it touches others as well.
Well, I'm excited. I hope everybody that's listening is excited. We're going to have 3 more short little podcast episodes where you're going to get to hear just a little snippet of everybody's story so that you'll be so excited. You'll want to read cover to cover as soon as the book comes out. So tell us when the book comes out.
The end of October, 1st of November.
In time for good Christmas present. If you know someone that is struggling to find strength in their storm, Trust me, this would be tremendously uplifting to them. So we're going to wrap up this episode and hope that you'll jump right on the next one so you can start meeting our authors.